energy is dropping by the hour. I'm going to be doing my very best in bringing a lot of energy back to you now for this pitch. I'm the third one on stage, and also the last one, healthcare, so we're making sure that we're going to be taking a lot from the session. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about making babies. Not in that way, no. We're not going to be doing the sex ed session today. We're talking about making babies with AI. So imagine you cannot have kids. We have some people in the audience that maybe already have kids. Maybe you're thinking about having kids, brother, sister, everything around. Imagine you're not able to have children. That is reality for 1 out of 6 in this room. To be fair, reality is probably already 1 out of 5 because that number is increasing more and more and more. More important though is that 97% of those people which are infertile never access care. They never speak to a doctor about that. They never actually get the support that they would need to go into their journey toward parenthood. With that comes a lot of grief, blame in many cases, and a lot of pain. So you might think, all right, but there's a doctor for that, no? There's something called IVF, in vitro fertilization. Great. Yeah, it's not that easy. So in many cases, the wait time to get access to IVF or to advanced techniques to help you actually have a child is more than 2 years. When you think your chances, you go to a doctor and it's going to be fine, you're going to be having children, it's actually less than 50%. It goes rather toward 30%, your chance of actually having a baby with IVF today. LGBTQIA, in many countries, they won't be able to help you. Single, also not the case. Now, you want to talk to someone, and actually that happened to me. You call there, they get back, oh yeah, we will send you a fax. It's that old school in many, many cases. And then in the end, for that kind of treatment, we have to wait. There's very low success chances. There's all of these burdens. You're supposed to say 10,000 euros per try. This is not, until you have a child, but it's per try that you pay up to 10,000 euros actually for that. That picture is me. That was about 3 years ago. I was diagnosed with severe endometriosis. And that was my journey when I started to speak with IVF clinics, understanding what are my chances down the line to be able to build a family, to become a parent. And it was absolutely horrifying. It was impersonal. No one could give you any chances, any data. It was just not great. So what I did is turning tables around and actually building the infrastructure that I would like to have from the patient perspective. So I built Ovom. Ovom Care is a company that is on a mission to empower every single human being to actually build a family if they want to become a parent. What does it mean? That means that we have higher success rate, going much higher from the 30% we are today in the industry. We talk about access. Many people are financially not able to access fertility care, so accessibility is core of that. And more importantly, and that's very personal for me, it's about making it transparent, giving back control to the patient. Patient centricity. Let's dive a little bit into detail. What does it actually mean and what is it that we're building? So we built the world's first autonomous intelligence system for fertility clinics. A lot of fancy words. The bottleneck of that, or the ultimate summary of that, is that we built technology infrastructure for fertility clinics, A to Z, everything that you can imagine, but we intertwine it with the operations. So a clinic in itself and the care itself is completely changed and rebuilt from scratch. I'm going to be talking about a couple of layers on how the technology is built and what we're doing. The first one is the data layer. We just, in another pitch, we heard how important data and structured data is in all of that. That's true also for fertility medicine. So we spent a lot of time, the very beginning of the company, in making sure that we have structured data across the entire fertility journey. And going beyond that, we integrate, for example, lifestyle data. So all the data that you collect with your Oura ring, with your Whoop, and all of those components, they go into our database so we can use them for the development of algorithms. Number 2 is execution layer. We have built a system where now autonomously care is delivered to patients. So we can cut back on the admin time and use that time to provide this emotional support that patients need when they are on their journey when it comes to fertility. And the third one is our intelligence layer, the cherry on top, where we build medical decision support tools which are now helping the doctor and the embryologist in making better decisions for the patient, personalized decisions, which are now ultimately increasing the success chances. This beautiful dot, then the middle, is where all of those components come together. And I'm super excited to talk to you about today about what we call VAYA. VAYA is the invisible hand that is now running the fertility clinic. It is the invisible hand that has access to the data, is able to contextualize data, is able to give suggestions and recommendations, and more importantly, is able to execute exactly what it's recommending after the human in the loop and the approval. So what you see here is an example of what VAYA looks like. So for that, I need to give you some context. The IVF treatment starts, in most cases, with a woman being stimulated with hormones, with medication for about 2 weeks. And then after those 2 weeks, there's one final shot of medication. The timing of that final shot of medication is very important for the number of eggs and the quality of eggs that we're getting, which ultimately develop then into embryos in hopefully pregnancy and a live baby. Very important step. So what we now do, and what I'll show you here, is ultimately VAYA, which is collecting the data from the patient, the example patient that we have there, top left, contextualizing and giving a recommendation for exactly the timing of that trigger, which is now determining in many ways the quality and quantity of eggs. It doesn't stop there. The only human in this loop here is now the doctor, which is checking the recommendation and giving the approval, making sure that this actually makes sense what the AI is actually providing us with. In the next step, we bring it into operations. What happens next is that VAYA is bringing and scheduling that appointment into the calendar of the clinic. So you take out 3 people, which are usually necessary for that. You ultimately bring the AI in, which is scheduling in the context of opening time, shift of nurses, the availability of doctors, everything around that. It also doesn't stop there. We now go one step further. We communicate that automatically with the patient. They get a notification. They will ultimately know when am I supposed to be coming in, when am I supposed to be taking medication, checking up that they take the medication. Adherence is a very important topic, but it's also getting information. What are the side effects I can be accepting? What is the ultimate side effects? How can I avoid them? So we create the full cycle where now the AI is providing so much work that we cut back from about 4 to 5 hours of work, which is associated usually with that process, to less than 30 minutes. Talking a little bit about Ovom and how we built the company. In a first step, I firmly believe in, if you want to change the system, specifically in healthcare, you got to rebuild and rethink the system. That's what we do in the very beginning. We actually build the technology, the operations in our own blueprint clinic. So we prove higher success rate, we prove better efficiency, we prove ultimately, and that's the most important part, a better patient experience. In the next step, we are providing exactly what I was talking about, so the technology and the operations intertwined to each other, creating a new era in reproductive medicine to clinics around the world, and providing them with a clinic out of a box, which is making the patient much, much happier and much more successful in building a family. I was supposed to talk about traction because this is a pitch, so I'm going to be telling you a little bit about what we've been doing in the past 2.5 years. We are standing at about 1.9 million in revenue in 12-month run rate. More importantly, though, we have been doubling the success rate of IVF when it comes to the pregnancy rate in the clinic that we're operating. We went from market average of 30% to 60%. EBITDA positive after only 2 months. It is quite fun to be building, operating fertility clinics. A lot that you can do with that. Obviously not doing that on my own. I'm building this company together with my wonderful co-founder, Dr. Lene Brayboy. She's a reproductive clinician trained in the US. She was a chief medical officer of Clue before I snapped her away and she joined me for the mission in Ovom in redefining fertility. We have our wonderful CTO, very experienced in the development of algorithms and AI era, and obviously the operational team around that. I'm going to be ending very soon. I'm going to be giving some very exciting news toward the end. So remember that in the beginning I said that less than 3% of people which are infertile have access to care. The main barrier actually is financial. We figured out a way how to bring that care to the other 97%. It's a huge number. We are making teeny tiny steps toward it. We're making a big step right now. I'm not going to be giving away too much though. You actually have to talk to me if you want to know how that looks like. Thank you so much for your attention.